it was a little sort of piece of sport that happened. I thought I might start off focusing on something that's quite topical. So hopefully this will work, just as a reminder of what was happening on Saturday.
The UEFA Champions League final. After new animals do the funniest things.
Champions League final, live after new animals do the funniest things. Doesn't that put that in context? Who watched that final? Hands up if you watched it. Hands up if you didn't, just out of interest. So there's a few people at a sports marketing conference who had other things to do on Saturday. But you know, you can't let your work take over your life. But it certainly does for millions and millions of people around the world, and particularly in Europe. This was an extraordinary spectacle. Two fantastic clubs at the pinnacle of their sport, and the greatest player in the world. Some might argue the greatest player of all time. And what you get is, and that just moved that slide without me doing anything, by the way. So this could be quite fun, this presentation. I read a piece somewhere that this was claimed to be the game that stopped a concert. So what I just wanted to do is challenge that, because although we're in a sports marketing conference, there's a wider world out there. So how much impact did it really have? Who was really watching? What was the benefit to the broadcaster and to some of the brands? And when brands make decisions about sport or entertainment, what things should they take into consider in terms of reach and impact, what it says about their brand? So let's just have a look at how many people were watching. Because people were watching not just at home, but of course in bars, and for certain brands like Heineken, one of our clients at Mindshare, really important to reach this target audience. But across the top 5 markets, and I'd like Sam Reed at the back here to take a bow, because he's done a lot of research for this piece. So thank you, Sam, in my sport and entertainment team. Now, what's interesting about that, you might see a bigger number somewhere, that also worldwide, it's not just a European event, it's a game that happens in Europe. There are 144 million viewers. This was 09-10, and there quite enough time to contact 120 markets yet, and we'll come back to you this time next year. But we think that number's gone up, simply because of the two teams that are available and the number of improvements that have happened to broadcast contracts. So, the reason that's of interest to advertisers, not just that size of that audience, but of course, you are reaching the elusive, often quite slobbish male viewer who doesn't watch as much TV as the rest of the population. Still watching as much TV as always used to, by the way. TV is not dead, it is thriving, isn't it, Frederick?
It is.
Absolutely.
It is, definitely.
And many other touch points that spin off the core TV platform as well. But this audience is very valuable. So therefore you had advertisers like these guys who spent a lot of money for 30, 40-second spots in those ad breaks. And there was talk, and I'll come on to how much that cost. It was around, in the order, on average, around £200,000 for a 30-second spot. Some might have paid more than that. For our agency, I can't tell you, but it wasn't as much as that. Certainly, Frederick. Yeah. But what is interesting is that don't believe the hype when you hear people in Western Europe start to make claims that this is becoming our own Super Bowl. It is nowhere near it, right? Let's put that in perspective. So if that's one sort of bubble that I'd like to prick, and there's another one coming on later on, that is it. The 200 grand doesn't compare to $3 million per 30-second spot. Also, the advertisers in the US are creating enormous campaigns which are tailored for that Super Bowl event. Only one of these brands had a tailored ad. Which one do you think it was?
MasterCard. Heineken.
William Hill. You'd have thought the bookies brand, the one that is kind of the less, if you like, in terms of stature, they all may have launched ads, but they weren't tailored and very specifically about the Champions League and related to that particular passion, so working really hard. So they might have launched a new campaign or a new execution, but really thinking about the audience and what it was being passionate about, perhaps a bit of a trick was missed. However, 3 of those are our clients, so their work was absolutely brilliant, but now's not the time to go through which ones. And also, away from the TV, the claim that the Champions League is becoming like the Super Bowl off the pitch. You know, they had the Champions League Festival in Hyde Park. if anybody, hands up if you've been to the Super Bowl. Did you go to any of the Super Bowl kind of the week beforehand as well as the match itself? Did you go to any of the experience around it? I've only been once. Absolutely awesome. Now the cost of that advertising, here's a numbers chart, is high. It's a premium of, in the UK for instance, of plus 65% above the average station price. So what you'll see, interestingly, is that the cost in the UK, the rate card, is very high. So the premium that we pay in the UK is greater simply because I think in this market, less so in some of the other markets, there's such an attention. It's become a kind of an event around which advertisers, sponsors really want to concentrate and invest. However, in the UK, question, because if that's a very valuable audience and significant and sizable, is it always a huge audience? This is over the last 6 years, the average there is 10 million. Interestingly, that we're quite nationalistic here in the UK. When there's no English team, which that was the first time, there's Inter against Bayern, so correct? Yeah. Lost a few million viewers. So you have to be aware of the trends across the market. So although yes, it's reaching 30 million people across Europe, it's not always going to hit 10 million in the UK. This week it did, or this on Saturday night it hit 11 million. So already that night, by the time of the final whistle, that was the peak. By the time of the final whistle, it became the second most viewed programme on British television in 2011. I'll buy a pint of whatever in the bar for anybody who's not in my team, so might not already have the answer. Who could guess what the most watched programme up until Saturday night? Raw Wedding, and commercially, in terms of the sort of standard programme, it was Coronation Street. And then, guess what? You're kind of leading me to the point. Just 48 hours later, after Messi and Ferguson and Guardiola had entranced us, or frustrated us, depending on your point of view, this man comes back on the Monday night into Got Talent and smashes that record. So he's already delivered an audience that night just by him coming back and all the PR that surrounded it at 13.5 million, which puts the Champions League audience of 11 million into some context. Now, that is not to say that just because it's a bigger audience, it's a better audience. It is a different audience because the profile are quite different. Now, obviously, advertisers and agencies representing know that very well, and we start digging into that. Here's just a reminder.
It's the king of popular culture. The Saturday Night Sensation returns in 2010 for a 7th season.
It's a completely unpredictable live show. I genuinely have no idea what's going to happen on it. It's so emotional, so competitive, and you get caught up in it. You can't help it.
Having asked a question earlier on about how many people watched the Champions League final, how many people were watching any of that on the weekend just gone? Who watched Simon? Who's watching Simon Cowell on Monday night? Look at this, it's like guilty pleasures, isn't it? Well, you can't get a prize. You are representative of half of Britain, because half of the available audience that night was watching that show. So it's those who aren't involved in sports marketing, but it's probably a lot of liars, and there were a lot of guys who were going like that. Okay. What's interesting now, I've kind of a little bit of cheating just for the sake of brevity and a bit of a headline here. I'm kind of amalgamating X Factor and Britain's Got Talent and the appropriate or the relevant show in a given market. So it's the leading entertainment show and talent show. So, but I'm just putting up the X, so there's not too many logos. But what this shows is over 6 years, these are the finals. So that's the red line Champions League finals, so in the UK, so dipped in 2010. Over those 6 years, look at what the most watched final, an X Factor final or a Got Talent final, was driving in terms of audience, and that's in terms of millions. They're hoping, 13.5 million on Monday night, they're hoping to smash 20 million for the final this coming. Is it this weekend? Because I'm not a viewer either, which would be quite remarkable, and again we'll put it right up there. So what does that tell us? Is that the case across Europe? Yes, it is. Across Europe, those 30 million viewers are somewhat trounced like 52 million. This is aggregated. Again, this is not saying one's more valuable than the other, but just in terms of scale. Can we come back to questions at the end? Because I think Kevin, I'll happily take a question out with Kevin, Chair.
I think we'd probably better hear everybody,
Yeah.
so that we don't go down an alley.
One of the things that X Factor and the talent shows and the entertainment shows, of course, has a different kind of value, not just size, is that it reaches women and it reaches families. Champions League, absolutely brilliant in terms of reaching that elusive male viewer. Got Talent and entertainment shows are better, more efficient at reaching families. And for women, 61% of the X Factor or Got Talent audience roughly is female. It's only 37%, so 37% of the Champions League viewership is female. And personal experience, quite a lot of those might be women in the room who are watching. Like men in the room, we don't really watch Got Talent when it's on, otherwise we would put our hands up, wouldn't we, guys? Half of Britain, but none of them in this room. Now, I think the overall point I'd like to make, if there is one point to take away from all those sort of stats and those comparisons, is that it's not about entertainment's got a bigger audience, and Champions League's got a male audience, so of course if I'm a male brand, I'm not interested in Got Talent, I want the Champions League audience. I think the lesson that can be learned is from the way in which these entertainment brands fully leverage the long tail. Okay, that's the pompous way of saying they reach out and engage with their audience, both online, on mobile, so they've got people tweeting, they're reaching a different audience, a more engaged audience, they then go on tour, and the rights owner, the IP owner, in this case Psycho or ITV, work in tandem with their brands in a much more, I think, flexible and engaging way. A couple of stats is that, for instance, 3 of the X Factor contestants last year in the top 5 Facebook status trends. Rooney was only 4th in comparison. X Factor is 5 times the number of tweets versus the Champions League in terms of final to final. So online and with younger people, these platforms are reaching and immersing themselves with their consumer base in the way that I think there's a danger that the big corporate, FIFA governed, corporate sport, UEFA governed, there's a danger are perhaps a bit too arrogant, a bit too distant from their consumer. It feels like it's happy days at the moment, but let's beware. Because did you expect to see man boobs in PricewaterhouseCoopers? It's not necessarily, the clash of the titans isn't necessarily between Ferguson and Guardiola and Messi and Rooney. These are the guys that are battling for the attention of the consumer and for the brand's dollars. And I'll just leave you one unpleasant thought, which is, can you imagine if those two got together? Thank you very much.